Hello, Frenzynauts.
Hey
Episode
guys.
58. Here we are.
I can't believe it.
Can't believe it.
Just last week it was episode 57. What happened?
No,
God.
what's really strange is on Sunday when I did Weekly Weirdo, I for some reason thought this was going to be the 60th episode. I've got my episode numbers all mixed up.
Well, it really would have been if there wasn't like those couple of weeks we didn't do a frenzy. So you're not off. It's, we did skip a week here and there over the course of last year. So 60 is accurate. It's just we took a few weeks and we didn't do a show. So
that's right. Right off the bat, gotta say, Bobby is not with us tonight, as you can tell, and we miss him. And Shawn, of course, is not here too, so we miss him too. But both of those fine gentlemen let us know that they wouldn't be able to make it this week. So, Bobby and Shawn, we miss you guys.
Definitely. Doesn't feel the same without you.
It's right.
With that, we got to do the little. Yeah. How do you do that? I don't know.
There you go. I should have practiced that in the mirror before trying it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Oh well. They get the sentiment.
At least it wasn't like upside down or
right. Yeah.
You did a pretty good job.
Wasn't too bad.
So, guys, how are you all doing?
Good. Yeah.
Oh shit! I was waiting for Bobby to say good and you.
Good and you.
Damn.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm exhausted, but good. It's been a long friggin' week. But I'm happy to be here with you guys chatting about this stuff. We've got a lot to discuss tonight.
I got my birthday's coming up on Monday.
Oh,
so
on Monday.
What?
Yeah. So
and you tell us now? This was so I couldn't plan some craziness from the audience and you.
Oh, right, no. Yeah. That's right. But like my birthdays are always the most low key things. It's like we order in food and don't invite anybody.
I totally get it.
That's the best way to do it. I mean, that's what we do in our household. We have like one of us goes out and gets donuts really early in the morning, and we celebrate here before everybody goes to school because it's been a long time since anyone's had a birthday land on a weekend. And then we do something here at the house for dinner and open a couple of gifts. And speaking of that, what do you have on your birthday wish for this year, Adam?
Oh, I just asked for an eBay gift card. So
there you go.
Depending on what it is, Motu classics, like, I don't know, Mantena or something along those lines.
Yeah.
That's a really good one when it comes to classics. It's one of my faves.
One of the best origins too. I mean,
right?
Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah.
As long as he's got the 4 legs.
Right.
4 legs, yeah.
Yep.
I still can't believe they did that for Origins. I was not expecting them to do 4 individual legs. I was kind of figuring maybe some kind of articulated version of the old one.
Yeah.
And for it to not be a deluxe figure.
Well, yeah.
Amazing, really. Mattel, congrats on that one. That was you made some good decisions on that particular figure.
Yeah, and I recently found out it was kind of well known that the 4 Horsemen kind of worked on that one, but they did a lot of the Origins from like the first through 9 waves. I don't know if they're still doing it now. They might not be, but they did a lot of the core stuff.
Yeah, especially when it came to the head sculpts, especially stuff for like Leech and Keldor. Those are all them. They did those head sculpts, and it wasn't just miniaturizing the old ones from classics. They resculpted them. I found out, which is pretty badass.
That's amazing. Yeah,
I assume they didn't do Cronus because he didn't turn out that well.
At least they won't take credit for that one.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, he's at first I despised that figure, but now I have a very particular special love for that figure. He is the weirdest of the weird. That face sculpt is just off, and I think it's awesome.
Honestly, I think I like Bud's version of it because he put like that little green visor
Oh yeah,
underneath the helmet. Like he managed to put that on there. I have got to say, I really, really like that look for him.
yeah,
It's just something about giving him that visor gives it this little extra edge that makes the figure better.
yeah, yeah. So we commend you, Bud, on that.
Definitely.
So shall we check out who's in the chat? Actually, do we want
Sure.
to address the fact that
It's going to take us a while to get through everything that Bud's breaking down.
Okay.
So I'd say let's go through the chat, say hey to everybody.
Awesome. Let's do it.
And then as we start off the conversation, we'll circle back around to what Bud says.
Yes, definitely.
Matter of
Sounds
fact,
good.
I'm going to star all of it. That way I can find it easier
Ooh,
to go
good.
over and break down. There we go. All right. So speaking of which, Bud's here, everybody.
And is he? And is he, right? He's got a lot to say at the beginning.
He has made his presence known, spoke his thought, dropped the mic, and probably rolled out for the night.
Yeah.
We've got El Tenda joining us this evening.
El Tenda.
Masterversal Toy Hunter, Eldor hanging out. Highly in Dread, JMax77. We've got Cobweb Collector with us. John, figuratively speaking, is here. We have Nolan, Chef M80. And scrolling down a little bit here, a lot of in talking. We've got Duchess of Darkness and K-Roll in the house. Man, the ladies have shown up tonight. Now let's go. Everybody's most cringeworthy name in all the chat, speaking moistly. Ooh.
Yeah.
And Thanos Copter is joining us as well.
Awesome.
Let's keep going here. I don't think I missed anybody so far. No, it's in talking. Man, I'm going to have to start starring everybody as they come into the chat before we go live, just so I can find everybody easier.
I don't know. I got to say this. I don't know if we talk about this enough in previous episodes, but folks, you got to get over to Duchess of Darkness's channel. Even if you don't like horror, even if you don't like horror, you're going to like these stories. And I just was thinking about this last night. I was working on a project here at the house, and I was listening to that, to the most recent episode, the Witches episode. Yeah. And I was thinking, man, if you like horror movies, this could just sort of take the place of all that for a whole year is worth of material, practically on her channel, of creepy stuff. And sometimes I avoid listening to it because I don't want to get too creeped out at night. But then I get the urge. I listen to it like when I get the urge, and it's just awesome stuff. So Duchess, you're doing great stuff out there.
Agreed. Definitely agreed.
Absolutely.
And it's that spooky season, folks, when you know you should be listening to it anyway, so you can get that chill running down your spine as we enter into October.
For sure.
Oh, man. Best time of the year.
And she's getting close to 1,000 subscribers, I noticed. So go over there and subscribe if you haven't done that yet.
That's right.
And you know who else is still really close to 1,000 subscribers is Legends of Grayskull. They are real close. So go over there and subscribe, folks, to both of those channels.
Yeah, if you guys aren't already subscribed, man, what's holding you back? Go check them out and definitely hit subscribe. Watch a few videos, hit that like, share the content, tell your friends about them, bring everybody in.
I laugh because every single time we do this sort of dog and pony show. Is that the term for it? Yes. It's like, well, we're always talking to the same folks, and we know everybody here is probably already subscribed to those channels. But tell your friends, darn it. Tell your friends.
That's right. Tell everybody about it. And speaking of names, we have Captain Yak.
All right,
Captain Yak.
Captain Yak, thank you for being here. Ronald Embry.
All right, Ronald.
He's joined us well. And let's keep going. Oh, we're getting some birthday love rolling in here.
That's good. Yeah.
Here we go. Don't want to miss anybody saying happy birthday.
Oh,
Man,
that's awesome.
man.
Thanks, guys.
And
Fantastic.
Eric Perryman joining us as well
Eric
this
Perryman.
evening. And a happy birthday to Adam all at once, hitting
Nice.
all of that. Battle Ram Blog is here with us as well. He's hanging out in the chat. Good to see him. Ray Black in the house with us as well. All right.
That's awesome. It's a
caught
popcorn
up.
night.
Right? It definitely is.
Yeah.
We got Rolando Flores with
right.
us as well. Masters Keep has
Hey, Masters
joined.
Keep. Cool.
On Ryu, he is here hanging out. And
Fantastic.
J-Mac giving another big shout out.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. Adam, you've been posting some awesome toy photos this week.
Thanks. Yeah, I got one of those $10 like Amazon rotating like little turntable things.
Right.
And I've just been abusing it, like 2 videos a day.
It's great.
Okay, I'm 360 of all my toys.
That's fantastic.
Loving it.
I got to get one of those.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, they're affordable too.
Yeah, definitely are. And scrolling down here, we had some more people enter, and I lost them because I scrolled back up a little bit. Danny Phillips waking up early to hang out with us tonight.
Danny, all right.
Good to have you here, Danny. And Weekend Gamer also hanging out, saying happy birthday, Adam. And somebody had requested us. Yes, Weekend Gamer had said, drop the links in the chat, please. I will definitely jump on that because
cool.
Skelly's got a big topic to start off, and definitely want to give him the floor to kind of start all those chats, Skelly. If you want to go over and jump in and start breaking down what Bud's saying, I'll grab the links for everybody.
So here's the deal, folks. Bud did a lot of work for us tonight, and essentially, I'm just going to read through Bud's comments, and that's pretty much the show. We'll just after I read these comments, he's pretty much addressing everything we're going to be talking about with his ideas, and I think that sums it up. So shortest toy frenzy ever. Here we go. Bud says to survive beyond. Oh, wait, did I start the right place? Yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I start them in order.
All right. So to survive beyond us, as much as I don't want to say it, skins in multiplayer games, just like Fortnite and Roblox, Minecraft, and a mobile game, short animated stories for YouTube Kids is a good way for Masters to continue. I think that's where he's going with this, and I agree with that. Though I don't play any of those games, I know pretty much everybody else in the world does. So that would be smart. And I did hear a rumor. You guys probably heard this too, that they might be putting He-Man in Mortal Kombat or some other game.
I saw that, and I think there was something about like one of the military games too. There was like a Skeletor skin or something like that.
I mean, that's cool.
It was several years back. There's a game that came out called Toy Soldiers. And basically it was like your little toy action figures, but they went to war, kind of like the old Army Men games of like the mid-90s. And one of the add-ons you could buy back then, they had a G.I. Joe one, and they also did a Masters of the Universe one, which was pretty cool. I totally bought it all in. And Chef M80 is mentioning Masters Universe has skins in Fall Guys, and that's true too. That was one of their big announcements. Not this past PowerCon, but the one before.
Yeah, that's interesting. Call of Duty. Call of Duty was the other one.
Call of Duty.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw like they had a video of a screenshot of Skeletor in Call of Duty. It's kind of crazy.
That's cool. I mean, I agree. I think also the animated shorts on YouTube for kids, aimed at kids, would be great. I mean, I can see like, what the Fisher Price Playmates. Are they Playmates? No, I'm getting two. Those are two different brands. What are the Fisher Price figures?
Imaginext.
No, not Imaginext. The ones that are
the little preschool ones. Like
the preschool ones. It's preschool.
Little people.
Little people. Yeah, little people.
Yeah.
Like I could see like a YouTube cartoon with that kind of style versions of the characters for kids. I mean,
Yeah.
there are. We're going to talk about this tonight. I was joking, by the way, about this being the shortest episode. We're just getting started with Bud stuff here, but I think that there are a lot of avenues that haven't been explored, and that's one of them. Like, you know, Motu Muppet Baby type of show would be hilarious and great. I would totally watch that.
Yeah.
Okay, then, but continuing all this while still appealing to us adults who like the more vintage feel of the figures and stories. And I'm going to say this, I think I've said it before, maybe I dreamt it, I don't know, but I would love to see an animated film or series of shorts like we're getting from Justin Rosh from Stunt Puppet Pictures, of stop motion animation, vintage figures similar to Robot Chicken, but but like genuine stories based on the lore would just be amazing. And I'd love to see that. Again, another avenue they haven't yet explored that we know of. And also, the biggest of all is better distribution from stores. Yeah, we know that. I mean, or just go completely online. I was listening to Podcasters of the Universe, their newest, or their episode, maybe not the newest episode, but the most recent episode that I listened to. They were pining over the era of classics being just you pay a certain amount every month and you get that figure and it's guaranteed, and it's a good way to bypass all these distribution issues, or just put everything online and make sure you're going to get it. And so it's not a race. So it's not a constant race to get the
like
thing
a
before
pre-order window or something.
Yeah. Direct to consumer is highly sought after amongst us, the collector.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm not getting everything these days. So, but I do want to be able to get the thing that I do want to get, instead of feeling like I have to fight off a virtual crowd of people to get a thing. So I don't know. Or these weird like opportunity windows that pop up and then disappear. Like, that's how I got lucky to get the Snake Mountain through that Amazon window, but that window was only open for like half a day or something like that, or even less, couple of hours. And then I got lucky getting Slushhead ahead of time, or ordering him when he was available on Target. And I don't know if that disappeared after a while either, but that kind of thing kind of frustrates me.
It does. And we got room to talk about that, because along with how can something survive, you got to talk about what's breaking it down.
Yeah. And challenging your audience constantly doesn't really seem to be working. Making us race for something is kind of,
it's not a good call.
It's not a good call. It's weird. In fact,
look, man, most of us late 30s going into our 40s, and some of us getting into our 50s, and a lot of us are kind of out of shape, overweight. We ain't racing shit anymore. We're tired of it.
We don't even want to have to click fast. Okay.
No. I don't want to sit there and speed through the checkout process, sit in line for 45 minutes, get booted out, and have to start it all over again.
Yeah. And it's also a little, it's also a little sad too, because it was kind of exciting when certain channels would post their frustration videos or race for the prize videos. I don't even feel an enjoyment in watching those anymore. I just feel like it's kind of depressing, honestly.
It is. And we could definitely touch back on that.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain aspect there that we've got to definitely talk about.
Yeah.
I will say it was initially it was a little exciting, like during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I would specifically go to Target, go to Walmart, like looking to catch a glimpse. Okay, here's a Skeletor on the shelf. It's great. Oh, it's the vintage, red and blue burst.
Yeah.
That was fun for a while, but then eventually it just became like, okay,
Well, yeah, it was.
Scalpor has been here and he's
took a
gotten
lot.
all the stuff.
It took a long time. I mean, trust me, it's still in me, but it took a long time for it, that bug to wane or to disappear a little bit or to fade. Because still to this day, I go to Target and the wife and kids and I will go to Target and I'll beeline it to the toy section just to get that feeling. But you're right. When Origins first started hitting stores, it was so exciting to go, and then after a while, when the waves just started to become
one wave, that's
one wave,
forever.
yeah, forever, then the passion just sort of dissipated. Yeah. All right, let's move on. The next one from Bud. As you can see, folks, Bud really took some time to think about this.
Yeah.
While Origins is vintage, evolved for the next generation, it's not being advertised to them. And let's face it, not to us either. I don't know if I don't. What do you mean? First of all, I don't see, besides social media posts, I don't see advertising for this line at all.
That's exactly what he's saying. It's not being advertised, period.
Yeah.
To them or us.
Yeah, I guess that's true. To children, right? I think is what Bud's saying.
Right. It's starting off with the children from his last comment.
Yeah.
And then kind of going into, again, us.
Yeah.
Us as well.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one thing we'll talk about is commercials and how fantastic commercials were for all the toys that we grew up with. We live in a different era now, but we're watching Hulu here on the TV during dinner and there are commercials there. They just happen to be about either medications or elderly dating sites or it's just like weird
wrinkle in time.
Hygiene products,
McDonald's, Burger King. We got that Burger King song in our head, in our collective skulls. Can't get it out of our heads. But there's no exciting. I mean, heck, there's not even any advertising. Like our youngest is really into Taylor Swift. I don't see a Taylor Swift commercial popping on there. I definitely don't see any Origins commercials popping up on there. I mean, it'd be really cool if one of Justin's Stunt Puppet Pictures shorts came on as a commercial while watching Hulu. I mean, how amazing would that be? And that would just garner the attention of any kid watching.
Yeah, definitely would.
All right, next comment. To round back, we need skins for video games, mobile games for kids, short consumable stories, YouTube shorts, TikToks. That's probably smarter than like a full episode of something. I think Revolution is definitely for us, the older folks, Revolution, but shorter things are what the kids like, I guess. They do this and thrive. We can all get the things we want. I think that's true, but there's a lot of unexplored avenues that we should probably talk about. So did you, let's see. Oh, well, let's get back to we've got some people here popping up. Let's see, who did we miss? I like what Thanos is saying here. Bring back Saturday morning cartoons, damn it. Yes.
Agreed. Agreed. That's definitely going to be one of those high topics that we talk about. We definitely did drop Duchess of Darkness's link in the chat, as well as Legends of Grayskull. Sorry, Skelly, I had to hijack your
oh no, hijack away.
Doesn't let us. All right, and just to round out and finish out everybody here in the chat, highlighting Sir Clifton, Eternian Elite showed up.
Clifton.
Toy Mama is here as well. And we've got Allison Troy has shown up. Beautiful Dawning of a Decade has joined us this evening. Good to have you, babe. And scrolling down further to see if anybody else has popped in. So yeah, we got a big crowd here tonight ready for everything. We do.
Man, this is great. I mean,
So much in talking, I'm having trouble finding if anybody else joined in. But I love it
All
though.
right.
People keep up that
Yeah.
conversation because that's
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
We
Oh,
got
look.
Julia Honer here. Fantastic. Great to see you, Julia.
Good to have you. And since I said from now on I was going to start calling Pop Actor by his name in the chat, he did it for me. Hey, Rick, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, that's hilarious. Rick, it's good to have you here. Emerald
Also,
Night
Emerald
photos.
Night.
All right.
Always good to have you guys here hanging out with
Man.
us in the chat. It's good to see everybody. Thank you all for being here. All right,
It
so
warms my heart.
thank you, Rick.
He's gonna switch it back to Pop Actor now.
He will. He certainly will.
Yeah. Black
Black
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Yeah. Should we get started with a little bit of the slides, or where do we want to kick start this?
Oh, are we doing the toy of the week or whatever? Still?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So,
we got to talk about what we got excited about because I'm excited. I
got excited about something too this week. Let's get into that. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'm really excited about this. This has been absolutely amazing. So, as most of you guys know, I'm really big into the, what the Four Horsemen is doing now. Still.
Yeah.
And just this past Friday, they did a big hint talking about what do they got coming out this past weekend. New figure Obscura, the 5th figure in the line. So I'm insanely crazy about it. Can't shut up about it from Friday into Saturday. Trying to figure out what's going on. Joined Aaron on Toy Therapy on Friday, hanging out with him and Tony, trying to figure out what this was. Did a whole big secondary live stream right at their second launch that evening because we found out that they were doing the Mask of the Red Death.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there are big Gothic literature fans in here, but Poe, of course, is one of my all-time favorites, especially being from Baltimore, where he is most famously known from, even though he's not a Baltimore native. He actually just moved down here. But in any case, though, he moved down here and died here. So,
yep.
It came in already.
Wow.
Pre-ordered on
incredible.
Saturday. Pre-ordered
That's
on
amazing.
Saturday. And here it is.
That's amazing.
Mask of the Red Death.
It's
a
amazing.
beautiful, beautiful box. This was the first all-in I've done with the Four Horsemen. I'm rocking the pin on the beanie here. Got the figure in hand. It also came with a mug that is currently being washed out in the kitchen. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the story, in true amazing Motu fashion, mini comic. But it's not really a comic. It is an actual just mini storybook. It's more like those original mini comics, the first 4 that we got, where it's a lot of words and then the pictures.
Yep.
So it's got Nate Barch's arch all throughout.
Dude. He is so good.
Yeah. So it's got the whole short story and Nate Barch's art. I can't show anymore because he's still sealed in the box.
Yeah,
they've got a shortened little version they're talking about on the back here.
Nice.
But again, being from Baltimore and having a figure from one of the great authors who is known for Baltimore, the figure Obscura line, there's just a whole lot there that pretty much almost every release that's come out has had some kind of personal connection to either me, my childhood, or something that I'm into. And I think it's phenomenal that they did this. It's a really, really great drop. I mean, there's still some other stuff to be excited about too, but I mean, this was huge. So I'm hoping that this Saturday, hopefully, fingers crossed, follow my compadres from, my usual hangout on Saturday nights, get theirs. We've decided we are going to do a group unboxing of it.
That'd be awesome.
And Skelly, whenever you're ready, I've still got Moss Man in box because I'm waiting, brother.
Oh, you're waiting for me?
Dude, I've been toy edging on that thing since it showed up.
Oh man. Well, we gotta figure out a time.
Whenever I know you're busy.
Oh,
you just let me know.
All right, I have an idea. I'll reach out to you. I'll message you. I have an idea. Just got the idea. All right. Adam, what are you excited about?
All right, so this one I've had for a few weeks now, but the Classics King Hiss, one of the relatively affordable ones from that line on the secondary market. So
also one of my favorites from the line. God, he's so gorgeous.
Yeah, he's a good looking figure. I like the sort of simplicity of just take off the top, put on the snake, and you're done.
Easy.
Yep.
Easy peasy. Eventually, I want to get the other version, like the sort of William George art inspired, or no, Earl Norm art inspired.
Right.
The multiple snakes on top. But this one's pretty cool. It's
yeah,
fun.
that's an
for sure.
Yeah, they did a couple of different, and it's funny because some of the figures, when it comes to classics that they did multiples of, not every version really looked well, but I feel like every version of King Hiss that they did kind of knocked it out of the park. Like you said, that the other variants really looked good, including that 2000X version, the standard version. I mean, man, it was a killer figure, and I'm glad, because I think they kept that in mind when doing the Origins version.
Yeah.
They kind of kept him beefy and big, and I appreciate that a lot, because honestly, the other one was kind of puny. The
original was it was puny, and it was just a result of having to stick him within a normal human sized shell, so the snake had to be smaller. So
yeah, I agree.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm excited about, and I think this is a good time to mention it. But one of our very favorite patrons of the channel, Motu Origins Cork, sent a package over to me all the way from Ireland with a bunch of giveaway stuff, things that I can't really say right now, but they're things that we're really excited to give away to you all who watch this show. And we're definitely planning on a giveaway for Halloween. So stick around this month. We've got cool announcements coming. I'm really excited about that. But I am also really excited. So David, Motu Origins Cork, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. There's more to talk about in what he sent, but we'll get to that at another time.
He goes above and beyond.
He does. I mean, it's just extraordinary. And when I got the box, when the box showed up, it's this big box that, and just and you can see the travel damage, that this thing went through to get from Ireland to here, and it was heavy too. It was a massive box. Anyways, David, thank you. Motu Origins Cork is rad. We appreciate you, and we're excited to give everybody who watches this show, the people who win the giveaways, we're excited to share that with you all. Here's something I'd like to share that I'm excited about. So, Oz, in honor of your how much you despise the prices of Super 7 reaction action figures, I happened upon this at Target the other day. Oh, by the way, I saw I wandered through the Masters of the Universe aisle, and I saw that Whiplash, who was $16 last week, is down to $9.89 right now. There were no Whiplashes on the shelf, but the price tag was there. Someone grabbed them all. $9.89 for this pretty massive Masterverse Whiplash figure.
He is such a good figure too.
He is. I have my slight complaints about his face, but other than that, like this is a gorgeous figure, guys.
You put the helmet on that though, and it clears up all that crap of the face, in my opinion, because it kind of pulls it away from what we are, used to.
Yes, that's true. I love seeing him as he was in his original form.
With that big goofy,
yeah,
looking teeth, hold him back up again. And see, yeah, he's missing that like middle tooth that we're all
weird
used to that looks so
nose tooth.
weird.
Like
Yeah.
the
Right.
nose tooth.
Yeah,
They
it's used for
fixed
picking his
that
boogies.
plastics, but
Yeah, they did. He's got kind of a baby face. It's not bad, The more I look at him, I'm like, he's kind of adorable. I get it.
Yeah, I mean,
He
I dig him.
Semi reminds me a little of 2000X Whiplash's head, just because he's just got a wider face.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but
I got this strange variant.
Dude,
I love that
one's
variant.
so cool.
It's amazing.
Oh man,
that's a beautiful figure.
Cool.
Hands down, one of my most favorite figures in my collection now. But again, he's that Whiplash, homage. It's so good, and I like the fact that I was able to get both of these and put them side by side, him and the Masterverse one. It makes me really wish that the Masterverse one, his legs kind of fully extended.
Yeah.
Just so he could be that little bit taller, because this guy is massive, but
yeah.
I mean,
he is phenomenal.
I thought that his bent legs would bother me, but they don't really. But it would be great to see him stand, to be able to have him stand as tall as he can be.
Right. And when you figure he's supposed to be like, subterranean and kind of hunched over, when they added that element to him, it was just kind of like, okay, this hunched over look, if you were hanging out in caves all the time, you'd probably be there. And there's the other head for this one.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, after having his that little more alien head, instead of having his dragon head on, though, I gotta say this head looks really, really tiny.
Yeah,
which is kind of very Whiplash like.
Yeah, that's true.
But
all right. So the thing I got excited about was that I wouldn't have bought this guy at the normal price, but he was only $5.39 on clearance. My spirit character from Parks and Rec, Jerry Gergich.
Oh, nice!
I loved Jerry from this show, so I can't wait to put
Gary.
him in. Yeah, Gary. And he my family can vouch for this. I'm basically in this household. I am this guy. And so I love Jerry, and I'm excited to put him in a couple of pictures. But I wasn't willing to spend $20 on him, but $5.39, man. And of course, and the part of me that was laughing about this, of course, it's him. That's the clearanced one, right? Everybody else sold, but this guy's the clearanced one. So, love that.
Though, I gotta say, that price, I'd be buying all the reaction figures.
Of course, yeah. I mean, this whole thing would be reaction figures back here. If that's, I would probably. That's all I would be buying.
Reaction, yeah. Especially with the Masters of the Universe, get more of those because they look great on these play sets in that scale.
They're perfect. I think there are still a few of the Masters characters on Big Bad Toy Store for like $7.99. So, folks, get those reaction figures.
Yeah. You know what? I want to see on one of your, I don't know, pictures or videos. I want to see Gary, Jerry, Larry. I want to see him chained up in Snake Mountain. Somehow he's gotten himself in trouble. He's wandered into Snake Mountain, and Skeletor's
put him in the dungeon.
And then he just gets, and then he annoys Skeletor so much that he lets him go or something like that.
Accidentally farting.
Right.
I will definitely do that. If you watch like my Snake Mountain video, I put some of the I put Faker in that was Point Dread, but the reaction figures are perfect for these play sets.
I agree.
But yeah, I'm excited about. Lately, my thing that I get excited about is clearance items.
Clearance is very exciting
about that. I am also excited. I'm taking up a lot of this time too in this, but I did get the notification from Target that Slushhead is on its way.
Very cool.
I'm very excited about that. That's a character like Clawful, for example, that I would be
man.
definitely willing to pay full price for.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a
I gotta
lot of the
say-
Masterverse that's worth full
Yeah.
price.
Yeah.
I really hope they go in deep with those. Like I want to
Yeah.
see like Lizor and
Oh yeah. Butthead.
what's the Butthead. Yeah, all the especially the guys that didn't appear in classics. There was quite a few.
Yeah.
Bring them on in Masterverse.
Yeah. I definitely want to
let's see
see
him come out
Flog.
now.
Yeah.
Vlog
Right.
for sure.
I
Yeah.
think we could all use some more Tuscador. Wait,
Oh,
what?
Tuscador. He's pretty
I'm only
cheap
joking
if you
'cause
want to
he
get
was-
him in classics. Yeah.
He was the one that was.
so flooded.
He was the last. I'm so pissed at
He
myself.
became
for
available
not-
at retail.
I'm really mad at myself for not getting that. Hey,
Shawn!
Shawn!
Hey!
Welcome.
Hello.
Oh yeah.
I was just
All right. I was gonna say we all want to know what I'm excited for this week. It's this bald, beautiful bastard guy.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
That's what I'm most excited about.
You need to up your bar.
You know, Shawn, it's been a while, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Hey,
How's
look
it
at it.
going,
We've got
Vince?
Nolan. Everyone's saying hi now. You got Nolan saying
Hello,
hi,
all.
Shawn. Duchess.
I know
All right.
this.
Well, I was just going to say before you popped in was that I'm so pissed at myself for not buying Tuscador when he was like $20 on Big Bad Toy Store.
Well, even just find them at like a Ross or
I
like
never-
what
I never got to
ever
do
your
that.
discount.
I think he's
store.
pretty cheap on eBay because
He is.
you know
'cause
he
everybody
was like
got
at the
12.
tail end and not many people got it. So
Yeah, I just I'm mad that I don't have him because I've seen people hold him in hand. He's a massive, very cool figure.
he's he's
He's
a big
big.
chunky figure.
He'd be
Absolutely.
beefy.
He actually works well with the Masterverse guys because those guys are a little taller, and so
Yeah.
he kind of is about the same height as them,
Yeah,
although he's much heavier.
yeah.
Well, he a chunky boy, so
Yeah, he is chunky.
Mhm.
So, Shawn, you popped in at the perfect time. We're talking about what we're excited about. You know, we've adjusted the what did you get this week to what are you excited about this week? And I just listened to the short episode that you guys
The
launched on
mini-sode.
Legends. So, what are you excited about right now, this week?
I mean, it actually was pretty exciting to see that clip. Granted, like I said on the episode at SDCC, they had a lot longer version of that. Basically, the clip that they presented this week was the ending of the clip that they had at SDCC.
Yeah.
And it took over from there. So if you watch, there is a leaked version. If you watch both of those, you'll get like a nice 2 or 3 minute scene showing He-Man in action and Revolution. And it was also fun to see like Buzz Off, Snout Spout, Ram Man, Rio Blast, pew pew, and all that. You know, I mean,
that was fantastic.
it was fun, and it's still like I said, it's a rocky start with that show for me because I feel like if you create something and it's not completely good in the beginning, you're always going to have the cracks of that following you. But there's enough good in this that I'm like, I do want to see what they do next. At least I want to keep going.
I gotta say, in the most recent episode of Legends, you were quite the optimist, and I was it was nice to hear because I'm feeling the same way. I feel like sometimes an artist needs a good critique in order to make something better, and no matter how much that critique hurts or how shitty it comes out, it's good to have it, and so maybe you can improve. And I really am not a fan of artists that don't listen to critique. And so part of me is with you on that, Shawn. I'm feeling a little bit hopeful about where this might go. I am a little scared about the other thing that you mentioned you were scared of too, which is I hope they don't just like create this situation where dead characters can just suddenly come back without any consequence, or there has to be something special happening to that.
And like what Matt was saying on it actually made me go, if they go that route where it's like, because it was a situation where Skeletor shouldn't have been wielding that power, and they're writing what he did, like that was the whole point of the ending of Revelation was like, okay, we're gonna fix everything. So I feel like this could be like I fixed everything, but this is one thing He-Man's needed to do, not me, and if they have that start the show off where it's like He-Man's on this, like he's on a quest, he's got to go save his friends, you got me, that's gonna really get me back into that show again. So
fingers crossed, right? I mean,
fingers crossed.
I hope that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So anything else you're excited about?
Let's see. I'm excited because I did get shipping confirmation that Trapjaw is on his way from Mondo. That'll be next week, though. Unfortunately, I was really hoping for tomorrow. Because initially it did say that, and then they updated the thing and it said Wednesday, and I'm like, still excited. Didn't ruin it.
I've been hearing people have been getting them, and they've been shipped out. It's exciting that's I'm really excited to see people hold that thing in hand and show it off. Can't wait to see how all those how all the machinations of Trapjaw work in that form.
Now, like I was talking to Matt personally about this. I'm like, there's so many pre-order things right now that I don't remember what's what anymore, and it's just like shipping notice, okay, and I just go with it. It's like, and it's I have a ton, but I have enough that now I'm like, what was solicited last year around this time? Because now I'm getting this, and so because even over the last weekend, the Horsemen did Figure Obscura, which is the sidestep on the Mythic Legions and the Cosmic Legions, and they did the Mask of the Red Death, and that was something where I was like, oh,
look at us there.
Oh, look at Mr. I got it before me. Look at that. And that is I'm not a huge fan of like Father Christmas or they did the Monkey King, and I know the Monkey King's a gorgeous figure, but when you have Headless Horseman, Krampus, Mask of the Red, I'm like, now you're speaking my language. I like
that's what Oz was just saying.
Side of things way more than Father Christmas to me. When I saw him, I was like, well, that's an easy one that I don't need. I'm good. So just move on from there.
Yeah. I mean, Father Christmas was cool.
I love him.
But is he Mask of the Red Death cool?
But is he but is he Edgar Allan Poe cool?
Is he Edgar Allan
Poe?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, you guys, and here I am getting Jerry Gergich from Parks and Rec for $5.39, right? Love it.
But that's Jerry, Terry.
Gary.
You love that figure, and you appreciate that $5 price.
I do. I am so happy. I came home ecstatic that I found that.
He is literally $5.
That's right. Literally. Exactly. All right, so we jump in. We got some slides together.
Right.
We're gonna begin with some toy lines that have explored different avenues to help extend the life of the toy line. Then we'll end on Masters, I think. We'll end on Masters. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, that works.
So, what we're talking about tonight, folks, if you're just tuning in, what does Masters of the Universe need to do to survive? Mainly, we're talking about this because all of us here and all of you watching, we've experienced this drought with Masters. It's come and gone. And right now it feels like we're on this kind of strange high point that seems almost surreal. Like Shawn said, pre-orders, like it's hard to even keep up with what is coming out and what has come out. And so what does Masters need to do to continue? And so we're maybe explore a little bit of unexplored territory, but also what has worked and what hasn't worked. And Oz, you found this Transformers image. Do you want to start us off talking about Transformers?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're all familiar. I'm pretty sure every single one of us here grew up at some various age range through the 80s.
Yeah.
And there was this very, very formulaic process that they used to go through. And
Yeah.
Masters Universe actually helped kickstart that, being one of the
Yeah.
earlier brands to start hitting shelves in 82. But Transformers here, and a big shout out to Toy Connections for sending me these first two pics on the left here of the
Thank you,
Autobots
Ken.
and the Decepticons. You know, he himself is a wonderful toy historian. So if you're looking for an entire line of figures or like an entire year of figures and you're looking G.I. Joe or Transformers, Ken's got you in his history video. So I reached out and
Yeah.
he sent me these two pictures of the Autobots and the Decepticons back from 1984. You know, the first waves that came out that first year. Then I set it side by side with a Googled image I found from somebody who I don't know and did some of their more modern figures.
Mhm.
And I wanted to keep both pictures kind of relatively similar. So, like on the top, you got the Autobots from the new War
Mhm.
for Cybertron stuff. I say new, it was a couple years old. Then on the bottom, you got the Decepticons from War for Cybertron. You know, and you see some familiar faces here. And again, it's that formula where I look at Transformers as one of these evergreen brands.
Mhm.
Same as with, you know, and it'll be coming up in a couple of slides from here, but G.I. Joe, there were certain
Yeah.
brands that have just seemed to never be removed from the shelf, or their gaps were a lot smaller. Because with
Yeah.
Masters Universe, we all experienced 90s up to 2002, 2003, huge gap in Masters of the Universe.
Mhm.
And then we went about another 5 years because I think it was 2008 was when Classics started. Like I said, I missed the whole ride on Classics.
Yeah.
But yeah, about 2008 it started. So there was another gap there with no Masters of the Universe, like anything really.
And even with Classics, it was the figures weren't showing up in stores. There were no new shows. It was just this very sort of niche product.
It was. Yeah.
And
so one of the ways that I feel, you know, and I wanted to bring up is, again, Masters Universe did this great throughout the 80s. Multimedia.
yeah.
And when I say multimedia, I mean different forms of media. Where did you branch out? What did you do? Why were you on the lips and in the hands of every children? Shout out to Curtis for on the lips part. So
That's how he read his comic books. Yeah.
right? Braille using his lips. So,
oh my god, that's so funny. I just picture that.
The things
I
I,
don't want to
learned
do it.
about that man that I did not know it was going to fill my headspace. Let me tell you.
same, Shawn.
Right.
So, you know, we got several different, you know, comic books here, starting from with Marvel, getting into IDW, going into Image. You know, this here again, you know, you had Transformers comics. And I gotta say, there's again been small gaps, but for the most part, there has always been some form of Transformers in media somewhere, whether it was a new cartoon, comic books, movies, and we've seen this time and time again as times have gone on, even through reinvention. Because sometimes, and Skelly, you want to go up to the next slide?
I want to just piggyback a little bit on the comics real quick.
Oh yeah, sure. Stay on it for a sec.
Because you know, this is what Transformers and G.I. Joe did the same thing, did in comics that that Masters I don't think did. And Shawn, you and Matt were talking about this when you were talking about that last issue of the, or maybe it was the previous episode. But whenever comic books come into the conversation about Masters of the Universe, it's always like, why are we stuck with this short series? Why can't we have a lengthy Masters of the Universe comic that takes the same that follows a long journey, that tells multiple stories within a long journey, as opposed to, I mean, honestly, that's what I loved about comic books, is the serialized nature of it. When I was a kid, I knew that I could this could go on forever. And what's going to be the cliffhanger this time? And instead of knowing that this is a 4 or 5 or 6 issue short run thing that will just disappear. Shawn, yeah, go for it.
So what got me when I was a kid, I grew up with the Transformers comics. I got issue 1,
yeah,
and it was issue 1 of a 4-part series.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, and I actually almost every day bugged my mom, can we go back to 7-Eleven to see if issue 2 came in?
Yeah,
and she's like, it's literally, I got it for yesterday. Calm down. I was like that kid.
Yeah.
But the thing is about Transformers as comic books, it was hit or miss. Like, I grew up reading them, and like sometimes the art was amazing, the story could be really interesting,
Yeah.
and then for like a few months it's just like, why are we doing this storyline, or whatever. But the one thing I will say is, okay, 1986, Transformers the movie hits. Transformers the movie did what no other movie of its time was able to do, which was to actually do the thing of, here's something completely new. Here's something you didn't expect. Here's something, all this stuff. And on top of that, we're going to take away Optimus. We're going to take away Megatron. And we're going to put new people in these positions, and you're going to like it. And as a kid, it blew my mind because I didn't ever see that transition ever.
Yeah.
So it blew the roof off the joint for my imagination, for the fact that they went there. But the best part about it was the comics took that and ran with it. So when you have that issue there with Surrender, with Optimus putting the Autobots insignia down, they went to all sorts of crazy things, and by the end of that series, it mattered to you to see what was going on. Like Megatron wasn't in charge of the Decepticons. It was what was his name? He looked like Skeletor. He was like Samurai Skeletor. He was one of the Pretenders. Mm-hmm. And Prowl was the leader of the Autobots. And I just was reading this going, I absolutely love that I don't know what to expect out of this book. And it's Transformers. You'd think it'd be Optimus and Megatron going head to head every issue. So that's where they did it 100% right, as far as I was concerned, because they took chances with that story and they just let it play out. And
let it play out. Why rush through the telling of a story? This comment from Allison is really disappointing. I haven't collected comics in a long time. Mm-hmm. Oops, I hit the wrong one. Here we go. Comics rarely give more than 8 to 10 issues anymore. I mean, that is perplexing to me. What are they getting at? She continues, unless they are Batman, Bat-related, Superman, or whatever. But like, why would a company do that to their storylines? Why put an end cap? Why put end cap? Not an end cap. Why top off a story and force it into 8 issues when stories continue? The stories, first of all, I'm going to go into this. No story really ends. So,
nope.
Has Hollywood taught us that all stories need to have a beginning, middle, and an end, and so we should just do that forever? And it makes more sense to have issue 1 through issue 200 than it does to have issue 1 through issue 8. That's
agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed, but
agreed.
The comic companies fear that now because that's why I gave up collecting over the last few years. I'm like, how come every other month now it's an issue 1 all over again? And now it's like, they just want to do something. Like, part of the problem now is with Marvel, they're chasing the movies. So they got to keep it relevant to whatever's happening in the movie so that the people going to the movies can have something on the comic page that is like, I know this, I saw that, or whatever. And like in DC's case, for at least from my opinion, DC couldn't figure out how to write themselves out of a wet paper bag for the longest time with the New 52 stuff they were doing and all this.
Yeah.
And it's like that started with issue 1, and then they came back with Rebirth, and that started with issue 1, and it's like everything is now about events. It's not about let's just tell a good story and let's just make that story into something that fans are enjoying for years. It's we need an event because that's what makes the money. We need a, you know, like Transformers the movie, if it was a comic book, would have probably sold the most since Death of Superman because Optimus dies.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like it's a really weird mentality nowadays, and that's why Masters, in my opinion, is one of those properties that's like the Grateful Dead. There's a hardcore fan base there, but we're not spending millions the way that they'd like. So that's why we get miniseries instead of, you know, the other stuff, which is really sad to me, because Masters is perfect to have a maintained storyline keep going.
It is perfect. It doesn't make any. I mean, honestly, I think if they want to milk us, have a continuous story.
Mm-hmm.
Base it on the you know, early mini comics or something, and just have it begin at the beginning and continuously evolve.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get my dollar. I'm not interested in honestly, I'm not Mattel or whoever's making the comic books. I'm not interested in buying a mini series, honestly. But if you say we're launching a new series of Masters of the Universe comics based on, you know, early designs of the characters or something, I'd be like, and it doesn't have an end, it's going to keep going until people just stop buying. I'd be all in. I'd love that.
Well, I think we all got excited when they had announced that they were doing the new Eternia comics. We all got excited. We all got speculative over, is this going to be a new continuous storyline with these familiar yet new versions of characters? I think that's what a lot of us were really hoping for, especially seeing stuff like, you know, Prince Adam was the, you know, battle armor He-Man, you know, or that's what we were led to believe, kind of looking at that. You had that, you know, barbarian He-Man was like his own character almost, and he thought he was going to pass down the lineage, and then it became like this whole multiverse thing. And, you know, multiverses have been around forever. It's nothing new. And I mean, it's a great way to give us multiple versions of familiar characters, but at the end of the day, it's tired.
Also, with the new Eternia comics, just decide. Pick one of those storylines and just go with it. Make that the new Eternia story instead of having all these different vignettes going on all the time. I think, Shawn, you've said this before on Legends, like, this one works, this one doesn't work. So why are we given the one that doesn't work? And why can't this just be a continuous story? Am I right? I mean, I didn't buy those comics, but I did look at some of them online, and I do believe that they're just like vignettes, right? Do I have that wrong?
Mm-hmm.
They're all like little short story kind of things, one-offs.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 per issue or something.
It was 2 with the bookends, so that's kind of like a little bit of a third, but not much. But,
and that's the whole multiverse thing that Oz is talking about. And I just feel like decide on first of all, the new Eternia figures are amazing. I want to see a continuous story about those. I don't need to have multiple versions of.
It's the perfect breeding ground to give us something new.
Yes.
And not have to be beholden to what we've had before. Exactly. So, and like Shawn was saying perfectly with Transformers, and I'm showing more of it here. Shawn gives the ultimate example of killing off your main good guy, your main bad guy in Transformers the movie, and then giving us new, you know, leader of the Autobots, leader of the Decepticons moving forward, even if eventually they kind of went back, but that's besides the point.
At
Kids
least
were
they
crying
went.
because Optimus was dead. They tried something.
Yeah.
Well, the Beast Wars is a good example. They
That's,
didn't.
yeah.
They decided on this new path, and they just took it and went with it. It's not over.
Yeah.
It's not a mini
Yeah.
series. Beast Wars is going to be around forever as part of the Transformers,
Yeah.
subline or whatever you want to call it, right?
That's right.
So
They took a chance to try something new
yeah,
in the 90s. And to be completely honest, it really worked. We may have only gotten 3 seasons of it, but it went for a while. They produced a whole lot of new toys, and they even tied it back to the originals when it was coming to the end.
yeah. I don't know. I didn't follow Beast Wars, but I will say this:
I-
I admire the commitment. Commit
Yeah.
to a weird idea and just go with it. Like,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
why be indecisive like they were with New Eternia comics?
Right.
That's indecisiveness. I honestly, I was like, I'm hearing what people are talking about him, and I'm just frankly not interested. I want them
I
to
agree.
just decide on the path and take it with full force. And you provided this image as well. I think the Transformers movies is another great example of that. Just decide to do this weird thing and go deep. Just keep
Yeah.
making them.
Right. And, they put out several movies. Some people like them, some people hate them. And they've tried to do some offshoots to try to course correct and see if people like this more or that more.
uh-huh.
And again, they were like, hey, that Beast Wars thing, let's bring that into it now.
Let's try it.
And they're putting stuff out there. They're taking chances. They're taking risks.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that is something that needs to happen. You've got to take these risks. But
Is it
we've got to
that
get behind it.
is it that these are robots and you can take the humans and they can be any humans based on what's popular, relevant, what need the humans that represent who we need to be focusing on as far as what our culture might be missing or what our culture might need. And at the core of this, you have robots which bypass all of those things. Robots can be anything, and they're transforming robots, for goodness sakes. So is one of the problems, I'm just going to say this, is one of the problems with Masters and why companies are afraid, why movie companies are afraid to commit to it, is that it's a beefy white blonde guy at the forefront. And is that what studios are afraid of? And I can understand that fear, but I also think it doesn't have to be that way. And
No.
and also, don't we love He-Man and Masters of the Universe because we see ourselves in those characters, and that those characters can be us. And honestly, I might make some people mad right now, but He-Man doesn't have to be blonde. And also, I'm going to also make some people mad right now too. He also doesn't have to be extremely muscular, because a powerful person doesn't have. If we look at Superman, a powerful person does not have to be a beefcake. Doesn't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, even though we might want to see that on the screen. But like, what do we think people? What do we think these studios or even Mattel? What are they afraid of?
One thing that, again, these have stayed consistent and managed to keep themselves on store shelves pretty much since it originated. There's been very, very few times you were able to walk into a store and not find Transformers toys in the aisle.
I'm right there with Brick. I agree. In fact, I think
I'd give it a shot.
it might
Anybody
be
can have the power.
It might be necessary. I mean, to do that, and I'm okay with it.
Right. And again, even again, as we go further here with the next couple of slides,
Let me go further.
G.I. Joe manages to kind of reinvent itself every so many years. And when I say reinvent, I don't just mean reboot, although they do reboot. but they are taking chances to try and keep themselves relevant and present on the toy shelf.
I'd also think, though, that G.I. Joe is the one that's similar to Masters in certain ways, because in this day and age, especially like the whole idea of the real, real American hero, and that being a very divisive thing, and them trying to navigate how that's supposed to work in this day and age. Because I know for how long people were like, when are they going to put out 6-inch Joe figures finally? We want 6-inch Joes. Now we got them. And it took that long. Like, it took the last, couple of years. And even the first couple waves, they were like, screw these. These aren't what we want. And now they're bringing out what everybody's been looking for finally.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, they kind of had like these futuristic looking weapons, which you can see in some of the newer pictures there. Because I picked parallels from like original style toys 3.3 3/4 to the newer 6-inch line, because it was a reinvention to keep themselves relevant and to keep it going. Because they can bring back Anniversary. And you know what? Every time they bring back Anniversary, every time they do an O-ring kind of line, it's going to be gangbusters to the people who are beholden to the original. But these newer toys need to appeal to new audiences. Because that's... go ahead, Skelly.
I think Shawn's... I think you're both right here in that... So, but G.I. Joe, if I was Hasbro, I'd be like, we really got to think about how we're doing this, because you're right. There's difficult territory being sold to us here. How do we celebrate the military? Well, we make it really weird. How do we celebrate a big beefy blonde guy? We make all the villains super weird. And that allows for us to see diversity in these things that might otherwise be categorized in a certain way. But so that kind of creates a perplexing thing, because I see, and maybe I'm wrong because I'm not a G.I. Joe collector, there are certain characters that I absolutely love, like Destro and the Dreadnoks. I love all those characters, but why has G.I. Joe always been in the stores? It feels like it's always been in the stores. I know there's been lulls, but the presence has been there more than Masters over the years, and that's a little bit perplexing to me, because Masters seems to be more of an open-minded IP, or more diverse IP.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, but Real American Hero, I mean, they definitely had a lot of different styled Americans. They had a lot of...
Yeah, that's true.
They gave you quite a few females in there. They even had overseas and different nationalities in there with foreign characters as well in some of these, which was really, really cool and creative.
And important.
Masters kind of was a little lack on that. But again, this other continued presence was media. Because continued comics and reinventions of comics, continued cartoon series. Again, you got that core original kind of cartoon, the Sumbo animation, and then you had Sigma 6, you had Extreme, you had Renegades, you had Venom versus Valor. They've done a lot of really, really different, and again, they may all be a little short, but they were continuous. And they were trying to appeal it to younger audiences as well.
I jumped ahead to the movies.
This is... Well, I mean, the movies is good too.
I mean, the movies are not great, but I will say...
they're not great.
I will say, though, I'd much rather have three Masters of the Universe three crappy Masters of the Universe movies than one mediocre Masters of the Universe movie. I say mediocre because it depends on when I watch it. I love it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this makes me sad. Sometimes I absolutely love it. But like, these movies are fun. They're not trying to be spectacularly good. They are fun to watch. But again, going back to this, why not just take a risk on Masters and make some movies and have
Yeah.
fun with it, like they did with this.
Well, again, kids enjoyed these movies.
Yeah.
And it brings it to a new generation. There's a new generation of kids that's like, oh, what's this G.I. Joe thing? And then they're going to look in it and they're going to see some of the older stuff. And they may not like all the older stuff. They may find their own version that they like. Same thing with Transformers. Not every kid's going to like going back to the original Transformers. Some kids may like Prime or Energon or whatever version that they, cling to. But one thing we have a severe lack of with Masters of the Universe is you have Filmation, you have Mike Young production, and they were heading the right direction finally, in my opinion. And this is just my opinion. The
Mike
last
Young.
couple of years, Mike Young production was definitely my favorite, hands down. But I feel that the last couple of years, they were going the right route. Because they took some chances.
But
They
you're
launched
talking about
like last 4 years.
Yeah.
They launched 3 separate toy lines at once and took a chance. 2 new cartoons coming out at once. 1 for the diehards and 1 for a younger audience. And Bud said it back towards the beginning. There was not any kind of hype or advertisement except amongst our community. That was it.
Yeah. So that's like the I'm going to quote my boss who just retired. Unexamined wallpaper. The hype aspect of Masters that we grew up with doesn't seem to be there because they're relying on the community to hype it, or to at least take whatever little social media clue that they hand over to us, and they know that we're going to advertise it, and we're doing it right now on this show. We do it every week, and
but who's watching it though? Like who's watching it?
Who's watching us? 25 people right now are watching us.
26 people. I see somebody else just joined in.
Oh, 26. All right.
And I expect you all to hit that like button right now. And if I jump over to the other screen, I don't see 26 likes.
Gotta be. We're back down.
I'm going to look at the camera sternly.
I
scared somebody. Well, sometimes you got to scare off the flakes.
Well, they jump in, they see that
they see Oz ranting and they run.
They see who knows what they see. I see love and I see excitement and I
agree.
Constructive critique.
But one of the things we don't see is younger fans. The main reason Transformers and G.I. Joe have stayed ever long on the toy shelves and we keep getting more stuff is because it's appealing to younger and younger fans. There are fans from the last 3 decades. Masters of the Universe doesn't have that because it did go away for so long, and then when it finally did come back, it couldn't find its own time slot in a right spot on Cartoon Network, which definitely was viewed by a lot of kids. And the only ones that could find it were us older fans that were hunting for it because we were starving. But
go ahead.
I was just going to bring up this one other key aspect too. That distribution has really hurt this line in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Okay, because when we can't find this stuff on the shelves, and whether it be scalpers, just poor distribution in general, Shawn, how do you remember finding Masters of the Universe, finding out about it?
When I was a kid?
Yeah. How did you find out about it?
I was literally at the McCrory 5 and Dime in Baltimore, and I saw them on the peg, and I had to have it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Skelly, how'd you find out about Masters of the Universe?
Trapjaw staring at me from the peg in Toys R Us. But then I also saw them at a babysitter's house. But yeah.
Well, there you go. Adam, what about you?
So my parents saw it. My mom saw it. She was looking for presents. I had not seen it before. She just brought them home for Christmas or birthday. That was my first.
that's definitely more along the way that I remember it. I remember just getting the stuff at Christmas and being like, wow, this is amazing. And then seeing it in store a little bit of vague memories, because again, I was very young. So we all saw it in a store and it appealed. It called to us in some way. Well, that's really hard to do for new, younger audiences walking down a toy aisle when they're not seeing the toys. And the one aisle that's the most naked is the action figure aisle. You walk down any other aisle in a toy department, tons of toys. Dolls in the doll aisle, cars in the car aisle. They're all there.
Legos in the Lego aisle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mass amounts.
So I think Rick is right. A live movie of Masters of the Universe will get attention with younger kids. It worked with Barbie, and it went through the roof. I think, though, that it has to be the movie has to be they got to have a good writing team.
Mm-hmm.
They got to have a top-notch writing team. You can't have some new kids making movies who've only made like 2 or 3 movies coming in and make this thing and write it as if it's their own, as if they know it. You got to have excellent writers that have a lot of experience and willingness to do some research and spend time with it, because that's what happened with the Barbie movie. And that's why the Barbie movie is good, because a very smart person, 2 very smart people, decided to write this thing, think about what Barbie represents, but also know the history of Barbie. And that's why it worked. And not that the He-Man movie has to be a movie about toys. It should be on Eternia and about the stories of these characters. But you gotta know the background. You gotta know the mini comics. You gotta know Filmation, and you also have to.
Time.
Yeah, you gotta spend time with it.
Yeah, you got to spend time with the property. You got to know the resource. You don't have to follow it. It doesn't have to be the same thing we've seen before.
Right.
But that's why honor it.
That's why, and Shawn, I know all of you have my back in saying this. It's so sad that the CGI show didn't work or didn't pan out with kids, because it was doing everything that we are saying right now. That show did, and it even had new characters on the shelves, and old characters, but new versions of the characters that we hadn't seen before, and it was a glorious risk for Mattel to take, and for Netflix to take.
Fantastic,
and it was a really good show, and unfortunately, there's something about it that just didn't work with kids, and I can't figure out what it is, because I watched Troll Hunters or whatever that show is on Netflix. It's a kids show. I watched it with my nephew, a couple episodes of that, and I was like, they're the same thing, basically, same style, same. It should work, so it's perplexing and sad that it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was a solid show. Just story wise, you connect with the characters. It was definitely risky because they redesigned all of these. Like we have these familiar names, but they don't look like themselves for the most part, especially on the heroic side. I think they probably could have gotten a little bit more juice out of it if they had been a little bit more familiar looking. Like they don't have to look like these 82 figures, but if they were like, because the kid market is one market, the adult market's another market. I think mostly you don't see people our age too much collecting that line. It's mostly the other line. So I think if it had been just a little more familiar, they might have been able to get both audiences at least buying the toys.
I think so. I think you're right.
I agree.
Did y'all see that Bobby joined us?
I was going to say, I brought it up.
Oh, no.
Brought it up here.
Hey, Bobby.
Glad that you're joining us in the chat, brother. We all miss you up here, though.
We miss you.
But one of those things that completely agree with you guys. It was the perfect opportunity to renewing and put this back into the hands of a younger generation. They sold very toyetic toys to go along with it, and they were fun. They had like geeky little action features and stuff like that that were just perfect for toys, and they had that young kid appeal, and they were durable too, which is always great when you want to bang around a barbarian dude up against a bony headed, other guy. Like, they were good, solid figures. They did really cool gimmicks. That toy line felt more like Masters of the Universe to me than Origins did.
Yep.
Origins felt like a great upgrade to the original, but it felt like a collector's line. Good enough that you could play with the kids with, because you don't exactly want to do that with classics. But, it was just a good upgrade. Those toys for the CGI He-Man were the toys that called to the younger me in the way of, this is a toy. They released those little 2-packs where it was the figure and the motorcycle. Neat little variant. Very cool. A lot of fun. And again, I loved the fact that they were taking a chance on that CGI show. But where was the marketing to get your kids to watch it? Because not a lot of people knew about it. Again, outside of our community. Now,
Well,
Hey,
go
guys,
ahead, Shawn.
no, I was just gonna,
real quick before you start, Shawn. I'm really sorry to go, but I have to cut out early. Our daughter has an event few towns over, but it's ending early, so I got to go. Many apologies, but have a wonderful discussion. And everybody in the chat, you're all amazing. Love you all for being here. And Shawn, I'm going to continue. I'm going to watch this from where I leave off and hear what you all have to say from here. But anyways, thanks everybody, and I'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye, Skelly. Shawn, go ahead with what you were going to say.
Well, that's the curse of Netflix. I mean, Netflix, even like there's certain things, the promotion was a bit like I remember when I went to the movie theater before Stranger Things season 1 hit, there's commercials for it in front of the movie. And so then I'm like, well, now I want to see this because I'm seeing it on the big screen and it's on a broader level than just me looking on my phone at something. And, it's like, I feel like anytime something's on Netflix, it's still got that insular vibe more than not. And like, I was lucky, my son and I, it wasn't that long ago. He goes, Dad, can we watch He-Man again? I'm like, yes, we can. And we sat there and watched a couple episodes back to back. And I even asked him, because I mean, he was 6 and he just turned 7 not long ago. And I'm like, you still like this one? He's like, yeah. And he really gets a kick out of that show even now. And it is sad. I mean, I will say, from the creative and the media side in Mattel, I think Rob David is the right person to have. And I hope that he can get something going while he's in that position.
Right.
Because he was also the writer of the Eternity War miniseries. And he was one of the creatives behind the CGI show. He also is the executive producer of Revelation and Revolution. Yep. And I was watching the SDCC panel that he did with Ted Biaselli and Kevin Smith. And Kevin was just like, these two are the backbone of the show. It's not me. Like, he's like, I'm the guy that my name's attached, but these are the guys who know so much of the lore that I follow them in what makes sense in some of these instances and stuff. And I'm like, they got him, and then Netflix does have Ted Biaselli, but if it's not associated with Netflix, at least Rob's there, and that's a good thing. I did notice, I mean, it's come up in the chat a bunch about the live movie. I agree, but I also am like, I don't know if that's even the right move at this point, because you're going to have the diehards wanting it one way, and then you're going to have other people. I mean, we already saw the media ripped apart Revelation before we even just got to watch it. So there's an element of that where I'm like, I don't know if I want to go through that again with Masters in the media and way. I don't need to see it ripped up one side and down the other. But and the other thing is, how do you get it to stand out when there is already Shazam out there and there's already Thor? And that for me is like, I don't know how to crack that code and make it where it's not going to make people go, so it's Thor. No, it's this. Oh, so it's Shazam. If they don't understand what Masters is about, you know? And
right.
I mean, you have those touchstones to go, well, this is the basics of it, but it's this whole other thing. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm nervous if they do, because I think everybody comes with a preconceived idea of what they want to see. If that isn't the movie they get, they're still going to get mad, even if they get a movie, maybe.
Well, you can't be worried about making the fans mad. You really gotta take the chance, and you gotta stick to it.
Yeah.
Mattel has proven that they're willing to take a chance, but it's like the moment they get that negative backlash, they're like, oh, whoa, nope,
under the
cancel it, call
rug.
it. We're done. We're not touching it anymore. We stopped. Honestly, I'm really surprised we got to the point where we see Revolution still coming.
Yeah.
Because they were hardcore pushing, like, we got all of those seasons of the CGI show pumped out. And then they were like, okay, well, we've still got another one that's coming that's gonna pull the story a little bit further. And it's been on hiatus. Still have not officially canceled it, but they also have not renewed it either. You know, it's sitting in a limbo where they haven't canceled it, didn't renew it. They were pushing the idea of the movie, and when everything was guns ablazing, you heard, oh yeah, the movie's coming, the movie's coming, the movie's coming. And as soon as we stopped with the foot on the gas with, oh, He-Man's going great, and like they're watching sales dollars drop, yep, cut the idea of the movie. That's a big budget thing, and we're not willing to do it. They don't want to put the money out to take a risk and have it bomb. I think part of that is just trauma on Mattel as a whole from what happened in 87 with sinking all that money into that movie and it not being a big box office success. And them losing a lot of money that helped tank the franchise. You know, I like the idea of them continuing to take risks. And it's not like they haven't tried to reinvent He-Man, because they have a couple times without the CGI version. This was a big reinvention right here. New Adventures of He-Man. The only problem was all of us that were fans of He-Man, we all kind of looked at this back then and we were like, what the crap is that?
Yeah, I kind of had the same, like the movie, the 87 movie and this New Adventures line at the time, not now, but at the time it was like, I don't recognize these people as He-Man or Skeletor, so I'm not interested. I'm out,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it pulled us away from it as opposed to drawing us into it more. Like, I want to see more. You know, the power of Grayskull suddenly just became the power of Eternia. And, you know, like all that, it just wasn't that same feel anymore. And, you know, we get stuff like this. We get commemorative anniversary stuff. And that's great for all of us because we all love it. But it's not appealing to a new market. Because the younger audiences, again, they have nothing to connect to. So, I mean, we love this. I think that commemorative, you know, launch, man, I am so mad I didn't see this because this is definitely one that I would have bought and had it sealed in that case.
Dude, I remember I was not collecting toys at the time. I had not thought about He-Man for over a decade. I went into like around 2000, I went into Toys R Us, and then there's this wall of commemorative He-Man figures. I was like, what the what? What is this?
Right?
And
I would have done
like,
the
I
same
need
thing
this
I
in
did
my
with
life.
Origins. Yeah. I would have done the same thing I did with Origins. The moment I knew it was out there, like I was immediately like, I need to have this, you know. Good job, Mattel. You got me programmed. I saw new He-Man on this. And again, like, you know, we've mentioned walking around seeing that red blue card on a store wall, gets you excited.
Yeah,
Because it does.
for
It
sure.
takes you right back to that feel of, sitting in the shopping cart or hanging off the side of the shopping cart while your mom's walking through the Woolworths or wherever it was that you were shopping. And we all know those old stores that aren't around anymore that we used to go to and see these. And, it gets exciting. And that's how it felt with Origins coming out. It was great. But a toy line can't live off of that on its own. I still say Mike Young production is quite it's probably the second best attempt at relaunching He-Man in an effective way. You came out with the new cartoon, you had new sculptors, new toys, and it's really, really hard to say everything that put this out, because again, just like how the original toy line and the original cartoons and everything kind of like that eventually died out, there was a lot of moving factors that ended up killing this off. One of the biggest spots was not having the stability of when they were airing the show. We all know when it came on as kids. Like, all of us remember when we used to watch He-Man. I mean, it had some different time slots, but for most of us, you had the Power Hour. You were watching He-Man, you were watching She-Ra back to back every day. And you just didn't have enough consistency for new fans. Like I said, some of us tried to hunt it and find out when the new time slot was going to be, because this week it was one time and then next week it was a whole different day. And they didn't advertise it like that. They would just say, oh yeah, new episode of He-Man coming out, and you didn't know what day it was going to be next week. You missed it most of the time.
Yeah, I'll say, like, this line, the 2000X and the vintage line were two lines that I think, I mean, a lot of things can kill a line, but for them, I'm gonna die, as the coroner, I'm gonna say cause of death for both is distribution problems.
Yeah.
In the 80s line, when they had that scheme, if you probably, I think I've mentioned this before, it's been around, like, basically the SVP of Boys Toys had a scheme to reship the 86 figures again to US stores, figures that would have otherwise gone to Europe, because that was a way for him to make bonus that year, because these are toys that had already sold through. There was no more demand for another 100,000 Rock On and Stone Dar and Extendar figures. So it's just flooded stores with that, and that led to its quick demise. And then in 2000X, you get Mattel doing kind of the Batman strategy, where 3/4 of the figures are just weird, kooky variants of He-Man and Skeletor.
Except for ice armor and fire armor. Those were the best.
Right.
Those were good. Those were good.
Yeah.
Like Jungle Attack He-Man and all this sort of half-baked kind of things, which weren't the Four Horsemen, by the way. Those were all those weird variants were internal by Mattel.
Well, of course, got to add the gimmick.
Yeah. So I think both, just inability to find the characters that were in demand was just.
Yep.
Even with entertainment, if you don't have the distribution, it's gonna end the line.
It kills it every single time. And this right here is the most solid relaunch of the toys. You had no supporting media, but the difference here was they were able to gauge how much they needed to produce just by pre-orders. This was the closest you had to a more made-to-order system, direct to consumer. And when you're selling to such a small niche market, because let's face it, we are, the Masters of the Universe fan community that exists as it does today is a very niche, small market. We're not making a lot of big bucks for Mattel at retail. There's not enough of us. There really isn't. So this was one of those things where, and as much as we don't really like to talk, or at least I don't like to talk about Nutlick very much, he got them to take a risk, try this new thing, and it worked really well. It also did help, and I know I said there was no media, but they kind of tuck those flyers in with like anniversary style, DVD launches of original filmation and also the Mike Young production cartoons. So like word was getting out to the people who were buying what they knew. They sold directly to their market. It didn't
Yep.
give a lot of room for the brand to grow, but they were able to sell directly to the people who wanted these toys. And they did an amazing job with getting us what we wanted and diving into some things we didn't know that we really wanted or that there wasn't as big of an outcry for. They were like, all right, so, we had this weird looking dude who was kind of like chilling off in the back corner of this package somewhere, and there wasn't a whole lot of detail. So let's flesh him out a little. And they took some chances and it worked really well.
Mhm.
This is really where I think we are at today with Master Universe. It's kind of funny. I feel like since 2020, we've kind of revisited every era of He-Man. You had the hype, you had the peak, you had the downfall of the 90s, and now we're going into classics.
Mhm.
I feel like we've gone over the whole roller coaster in 3 years that we took
It's
over 4
yeah.
decades.
And the interesting thing about classics is it definitely had the least media. Like you had a few comics kind of interspersed that came out,
Right.
but otherwise no cartoon, no major, definitely
No.
no advertising. But it's the longest lasting toy line in Motu history so far with the deepest, character selection. Probably, definitely, not selling as many units per figure, I think, as like Origins and Masterverse, but definitely the deepest and longest lasting toy line, which is interesting because just the distribution model, they got that right. You can pre-order this and a subscription model, you've got your toys and you're good for the year. And that made it last for a good 10 years or so.
Yeah, it really did. It hung around up until Mattel was like, we're going to fully snatch this license back. And that was at the time they were putting the idea to do Origins together. They were like, we're going to start doing something here on our own. And that brings us to kind of where we're at today. And like I said, I feel like we've had the whole roller coaster ride all over again of Masters of the Universe over 3 years. And Shawn, I know you're not the biggest fan of Origins, but I will say this, it did bring Masters of the Universe back to retail. And, again, they tried to launch 3 separate toy lines all at once, really. Started with Origins, kind of test the waters. Now we're going to put out this collector's line, and, we're going to base that look off of the CGI because that's going for the adult market. We're going to or I said CGI line, I meant Revelations. That we're going to make it look like Revelations because that was the adult market they were going for. And then they were like, we're going to launch this more toyetic line, cheaper price point, and we're going to do it for the CGI show, which was definitely launched to try and bring in the new audience. And, here we got the beautiful classics. And again, it was Revelations with Masterverse. And I see what they were doing. It was the right move. I'm not a fan of all these sculpts. Evelyn's definitely the best looking one up there. But they were working on it. And they've showed us what they kind of want to do with the future of the line here. And this kind of brings us to where we're at today. And whoop, now we got this little sweet thing here. I'm going to pull this down for a minute. So to kind of round us out here, and I know I was going to mention we were going to throw in some additional toy lines to talk about what they're doing. But what do you think would be the greatest asset to kind of continue Masters Universe so that it survives? And I'm not just talking for the short term. I'm talking for the long term so that 40 years from now, we're still hearing about Masters of the Universe?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I do think we're still, everything from 80s up until now, pretty much, except for probably the Netflix line, heavily supported by our generation, right? Um, so yeah, how do you? I mean, and the other problem is kids, I think, are definitely less than our generation, less inclined to collect toys, especially after, age 6 or 7. The video games and other, what those technological doodads that the youths are into. I don't know how it works. I'm confused and old, but uh, yeah, I don't know how you break that. Other than, I mean, I know I've heard like Mark Taylor's talked about this. Like, it has to be reinvented. You have to look at the current zeitgeist, which can sometimes annoy us, Gen Xers,
Definitely.
because it's not our zeitgeist. We're still in, with what we like. Yeah, that's a good question. From my perspective, I'm just looking for something that's really well sculpted, really well painted, and that's, pulling from the past. Um, but how do you make it new again?
Right. How do you capture that lightning in a bottle that they put out in 82, building up to 85, and keep it around for some longevity? Does a toy line survive at retail? Because I got to be honest, we're all getting older. And if this thing kicks off again another 40 years, we're all going to be on like Social Security and retirement. We're not going to be able to afford the figures they're going to be kicking out. I mean, just
I'll be
look at the
working until
prices
the
there.
day I die.
Well, that's the truth. But none of us can afford to retire. That's a
Yeah,
pipe dream none of us will ever have,
we got to support our habit too. So
right? But it's just kind of like one of those things. Like, what's really going to bring this around to keep it going for years to come? I think they're pulling a good move right now with pulling a bit away from the retail side of things, because I think most of us have gotten to a point where, like Skelly was talking about it earlier, didn't put a label on it. We got fatigued, I mean, I used to be excited to get out there every week, hit the stores, see that blue and red card up on there, and see if there was something new. But it was good. It was actually really good. 2021 going into 2022, although I couldn't find anything besides at that time I just couldn't find anything. And then starting in 2022, I got real excited with getting waves 6 and 7 really quick. Like within 2 months, I had 2 complete waves. I was like, that's the most new that I've been able to find on shelves since this line launched. And then it stopped there, and I never saw like new waves after that. And even when I did, like eventually, like wave 8 came through with Mantenna and 2000X He-Man and Skeletor. Like it eventually hit, and then it was gone. But wave 7 persisted. With Fisto or not Fisto, but Jitsu and Naked Stratos, Sorceress. For some reason, it's still out there on the shelves, just not going away. Actually, Allison brought up quite a little bit of that in the Patreon group chat about why it's kind of still persisting at retail. But up until that distribution hits its store, it's never going to really quite hit that stride. So the right idea right now for Mattel is to pull back, take the classics approach, do the direct to consumer. I also like that what they're doing, we've all heard, and as we've started to see now, for their retail, what they're going out there is we're going to start getting the cartoon, because we can't print Filmation on the box, but the cartoon line, we're going to see 2 cartoon figures. And then what was confirmed more so by Toy Habits today, is that we're going to start seeing 2 reissues per wave. So a full wave of 4, which originally it seemed like they were scaling it back to 3, where you were going to get 2 cartoon and 1 reissue. They've now confirmed it's going to be 2 cartoon, 2 reissues. That's a great move to start trying, but they've really got to fix the skew issue. And I think we're finally seeing that, because the boxes that the pictures were appearing in online, single figure cases. So that means it's a single skew per figure, which means when you launch that He-Man cartoon box, that's all He-Man. That Beastman cartoon box, that's all Beastman. So when they do those reissue waves, or those reissue figures, that should be 1 figure per case, which is a good way because they can gauge who needs what to order where. And I think we've seen like Merman and She-Ra are going to be the first up, which is cool because I know a lot of people missed out on this Merman. They ended up getting that Lords of Power reissue, but they missed out on the core original Merman. And that's a good idea. What do you guys think? Is this going to be the right move to do reissues and cartoon at retail?
I definitely see like the reissues of like the lines. The cartoon thing, that's Classics did that too, right? Towards like a couple of
When
years
Super
before the
7
end,
took
where
over
like,
it?
and that's the strategy being we need to keep the core characters heavily in the mix, right? Skeletor, Beastman, He-Man, etc. But we can't just sell the same one, so let's do a different style. Let's do the Filmation, which is the second most popular style of figure aside
Right.
from the toy looks.
Probably the most sought after kind of.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best strategy for them to keep Origins going longer, so it doesn't die that premature death. Um, I I don't know, how long they'll be able to do it because I don't, at some point you do hit kind of saturation point with people. Like after they get all of the original vintage 82 through 88 characters, are people still going to be in Origins to get these variants and different looks?
Right. I've spoken about it myself. I said, like, really, I'm out. I'm kind of pulled back from Origins at this point. I'm not going after the Filmation line. Call me blasphemous. Say I'm not a real fan all you want. Truth of the matter is, I've hit that fatigue point. I don't need a Filmation He-Man, because to me, my representation of Filmation He-Man in toys is the core He-Man, and I got him. Got him with the vintage head. I'm good to go. Same Skeletor, same Tila. I've got those cores. Those, to me, my Filmation versions are the original toys.
Yeah.
I totally get that there's a market that want those Filmation versions. I think that's great. I actually think that's a really cool thing that people who want that are going to be able to get that style. But I'm out on the Filmation line. When it comes through the reissues, I'm missing a couple of guys. I'm missing Gray Original Stratos. I'm missing Triclops. Stuff like that. So as we hopefully will see those come through these reissues, great. Now there's something I can be excited to look for in the store.
Right.
I think that's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
What about you, Shawn? What's your take? Because I know you you like to see new.
I don't like, for me, I don't even have a dog in this race, because I'm not collecting anything that they're putting out in the stores at the moment. For me, like, I'm trying to think with Hasbro does all GI Joe and Transformers, but then they also you have the other companies out there doing the masterpiece Transformers and things like that.
Right.
And I was like, well, you know, Ninja Turtles, Playmates has their typical here. All the kids can play with these, but then NECA has the movie versions, and they have the Last Ronin line and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, in some ways, I feel like that is maybe because like I know Mondo for some people, they're like, I'm not even touching it because it's too expensive. So it's like, where's a good medium here between like I can never ever look at Origins and go, wow, I need that. I just don't have it in me for that. And it's like Masterverse doesn't even get me. It's kind of sad for me to look at this and go, none of this is speaking to me, but I love Masters. What am I supposed to do? Well, I go to Mondo, and that's like, shit, that's expensive. So I can't keep doing it every figure they make. So, you know, I'd almost love to see, okay, what would NECA do if they got the license and could do something 6-inch figures and do them in different ways or whatever, and start going more in that route. I mean, Super 7 had the license. The problem is Super 7 was reliant on the classics. Well, what if NECA took it over, or if someone else, a third party, took it over, and they started doing some stuff where it is, I mean, I know Ramen had that initial, here's ideas we want to do, please Mattel, cross fingers, but if they legit gave it to somebody else and let them do a version that Mattel's not doing, and it could be like, instead of, if you don't want what they have out but you can't afford Mondo, here is that bridge that I need right now to do this. And it's like, in some ways, I feel like that gives more cred to the line if you have a third party other than Mondo out there going, we're doing these, and this is going to be our take on this, and enjoy it. And they can make the villains look more monstrous instead of just being, you know, Origins Skeletor or something. For me, like looking at the chat tonight, I mean, the first thing I'll say is, where the hell's a video game? I mean, my kids, my son's 7, my daughter's 11, and those kids will sit there and play the Miles Morales Spider-Man game on PS4. They will play Spider-Man with the Peter Parker version on PS4 all day long. They know the story. They like, my son specifically, Miles Morales is his Spider-Man. My daughter, Gwen Stacy, it's Spider-Gwen. That's her character. And it's like, Masters would work like that. Where are the video games? So that like, I'm sorry, you know, it's like we want to just talk about the toy part of it, and I know that's, I mean, it's Toy Frenzy. Of course, we're going to talk about that, but it's like, for it to survive, it needs to be also on platforms. It needs to be out there, and and not the tappers bullshit. It needs to be open world, Arkham Asylum or Skyrim, Eternia, Masters of the Universe, and, you know, maybe pick a few different characters and have that, like, you could be Teela, He-Man, Man at Arms, you know, whoever, and have the game be an open world thing where you're going on missions and you're actually getting to know Eternia in a way that no one has been able to do unless you watch the cartoons, but you're not interacting with those cartoons like that. You're just watching it. You're immersed in the game, at least. And honestly, you want to give any live action movie legs, you put something like that out first. That's going to wet the whistle of people wanting more of it on the big screen, in my opinion.
Right.
If it's done well, not do this, here's an app game and all that stuff like they were.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really quite cut it with those app games. I mean, sure, they're fun. I know a lot of people have short attention spans now. That's why YouTube Shorts and TikToks are great, because it's all we can pay attention to anymore. But at the same time, you need something with some substance, you know.
Absolutely.
You sit me down for an Elder Scrolls game, man, I will disappear for a week.
Exactly. And I'm sure there's people out there going, I don't have time for that. But it's like, I mean, think about all of the brands that have gotten video game. I mean, like, it blew my mind when the first Transformers movie came out and there was a Transformers video game. I literally stayed up until 2 a.m. just hitting the transforming button for like hours because I just couldn't get over. I could do this finally. This is so freaking great, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
No.
you know, it's like now, because I was thinking about that earlier. I'm like, when I talked about the movie itself, and I was only comparing it to Marvel, but I'm like, my God, we're in a time where fantasy is really big. Game of Thrones, the freaking Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies were out in the theaters in the last 20 years, and those still have legs. Those still have fans that are
Well, we
still
had,
going nuts over them. I mean, House of the
Mhm.
Dragon, and things,
right?
you know,
Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, yeah,
All of these deal with
Mhm.
a sorcery of some type. So
yeah,
you got your magic.
Yeah.
Not so much the swords in Harry Potter, but you had that with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones.
yep.
There's definitely still a market for it. It's not quite what it was in the 80s,
No, it wasn't
but
Conan anymore, but you still have that. It's visible, at least.
right. And we need to keep that visibility in order to draw in more people, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
because again, like you said, if we want younger audiences to enjoy this and really keep the longevity of this going so that our kids are sharing it with their kids and then their
Mhm.
kids, they need to have something to attach to. I know I introduced Connor to He-Man.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, he did start watching that She-Ra Netflix show without me encouraging him whatsoever. He brought it to me.
Hmm.
I knew it existed. I looked at the animation style and I was just like, yeah, I'll pass. It's got that whole Thundercats roar, you know,
Mhm.
kind of feel to it. It's not kind of what I'm looking for. But he brought it to me and I watched it and I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty good. I like this. This
Mhm.
is not bad.
Yeah, it's a good
And
story.
I'm glad he showed that to me. But like when it came down time to He-Man, I was introducing him to it. So we really need to see something that is gonna click with them.
Mhm.
And I know I did briefly hear, and I gotta say, the chat has been wild tonight with a lot of people commenting. And
Mhm.
honestly, if I were to try and go through this chat, highlight everybody's
Yeah.
stuff, and bring up everything in there, this would turn into an Nostradamus Toys live. We'd be here for another 6 hours.
Some
And I
people
don't think Adam
mentioned
and Shawn can do
Mhm.
one thing I'm seeing a lot is She-Ra. Like there hasn't been hardly any She-Ra in
not
Origins.
yet.
I think that would be another big draw for more sales.
That is going to give us a big boost. And I keep theorizing that we're going to see that next year. I
Yeah,
think
they
that
should. Yeah, she hasn't gotten any figure love for a long time.
right. They really quickly rushed her out in the third wave, and then they've put her on the shelf. And kind of same thing with Masterverse. We really quickly got her in Masterverse, her and Hordak, and then they put her on the shelf. And I mean, at least we got Katra and you know stuff like
Mhm.
we did get some more of her line in there, but you know, somebody had mentioned in the chat that they kind of like what would have happened if they brought out something like making a video game for He-Man in the vein of Toys to Life. Now that was a very, you know, for video games like Skylanders and Disney Infinity and Lego Dimensions. Is that a cool idea? Definitely. That would have been a neat idea to do, but that bubble burst really quickly
Mhm.
because they just spam the market with it.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of getting almost a reverse of that, where we're getting digital action figures with whatever the fuck that shit is.
Yeah, I think that's dead already. That's
I'm
That
pretty
actually
sure
is
everybody's digital apes have gone.
exactly. They're all 95% are worthless, according
Yeah.
to the news last week. Yeah.
Yep. And as much as I thought, okay, they're trying something new, but it was really the wrong step. And especially when I heard those guys talk about it too. And I know, you know, I love Motu Joe. He's a great guy. He was getting like really behind that. But when I heard those guys talk about it, I was like, wait a minute, you deconstructed a video game and you just jumped right into the microtransaction point without even giving me any substance. You've given me sprites, you've given me this, you give me that. and you've told me that there's more on the way without anything to really show for it. Like, we're going to give you an interactive environment so you can play with your toys. Like, oh, you mean like a video game? No, not a video game. Not a video. But that's what a video game, like, we broke down a video game into bare parts, and we're selling you assets in a video game, and you're going to love it. And we're going to charge you $40 for it. And everybody's like, what? You know, there's a lot of reasons that nobody got really behind that. And that was the big thing. You're going to charge us $40 for something that doesn't actually exist, when we're bitching about paying $20 for it in actual physical form. And, you know, Crypt Toys was definitely not really a good idea. And I gotta say, I watched one of Motu Joe's live streams where he was buying a whole bunch. Bless that man. And he got like the same trap jaw 5 times.
Oh my gosh. Oh, they
So
blind box it?
yeah, you spent
Okay.
$40 a piece, or and I don't, maybe they weren't that much for a blind box version or something. I can't remember what it was, but he was buying so many of them at a time, like, and he was just doing the open, and he would get the same trap jaw and the same trap jaw and the same trap jaw. No, I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. I was like, this is the absolute wrong move. However, kids love that blind box stuff. But kids are also spending, well, we're spending like, most of that stuff's like $3 or $4, you know, and a lot of times you see them discounted down to like $1. Well, that's fine if it's $1. It's not, you know, 3 hours worth of work or whatever you're paying for, you know, this other thing. So yeah, it was really, really a bad choice. So that was definitely not the way to go about it. But if they were to build a video game, like a solid video game, that would definitely help push this media to a younger audience, because a lot of the kids like games. If they were to give it some solid support behind media, and not just kind of be like, we're going to push a little bit of this out here, but then if it starts to waver, we're going to take our hands off. Like, no, you've really got to invest time in it. Give it time to build. Let the stories play out. Don't get scared the first time that some Kyle out there complains that Tila's the head of the show. Because you know what? By the time we got to the end of Revelation, a lot of people changed how they felt about Revelation once they got the complete story, which, even though Kevin Smith may have flubbed on some things he said early on, he did say from the beginning, wait until part 2 gets here. Wait until part 2. And a lot of people did change their mind once we got part 2. So I was glad that, you know, they did get that all out. And the CGI show, you know, that was probably the most amazing thing that came out. Shawn, I know you completely agree, because one of the first things we ever discussed on Toy Frenzy
that was my debut.
Yeah, the absolute love of that CGI show. And for everybody who sat down and really gave that show, it has been the most consistent praise across the board. Yes, there were the fans that didn't like, well, it's Ram Ma'am and not Ran. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Get over it. This is meant for like a 5-year-old kid, not for the 40-year-old person who needs to have it his core way. Go back and watch Filmation and have fun with dumb, short, stumpy Ram Man. The new ideas they brought to it, that we didn't just have the power of Grayskull and the power for good, but we had the power of havoc and the power of evil and how it corrupts. And what happens when it does corrupt a hero? Because Ram Mam went to crash. So like, they went and did like a lot of serious storytelling and character evolution and draws, introduced us to familiar characters and new characters. It really, really did do just about everything that something needs to be successful. And Mattel like backed off of it completely. Just totally backed off.
There was an interview I saw with Rob David where he said, for now, that story, it's like on hold.
Right.
So it like you said, it wasn't canceled. It's on hold. I don't know how else they'll tell that story, but when it comes back, you can damn well be sure I'm gonna eat that up like a 10-course meal, because I had no idea I needed that because of how I want to see something different. Like how would this translate to something else? We've seen that with all these other franchises. When they finally did it, I'm like, it still works. It's amazing. And it's like I agree with Adam. I mean the costumes, yeah. I mean, for me, it's like Skeletor is great in that. Trapjaw is amazing looking on that show.
Yep.
Beastman, I actually loved on that show. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
He-Man is a weirder one to look at and go, this is He-Man, and it's like New Adventures and vintage, just like meshed up somehow and became an amalgam He-Man, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a little odd, but at the same time, when you watch him in the show and in action, you're just like, no, that's still He-Man though. They got the
Definitely.
heart
I
of
did
it, you know?
I did like some like Man at Arms. I thought he was a cool. He didn't look much like Man at Arms, but he was still a cool design.
It was a great design, great new addition to the character that he came from, Man at Arms has always been the man at arms of the Eternia Palace, and he's always, I'm going to guide He-Man on his journey, like, this kind of mentor role.
Mm-hmm.
Now you had Man at Arms being a, apprentice to Cronus, a bad guy working for the bad guys, who, like, yeah, okay, I'm doing what I'm showed and everything like that, but nobody's giving me the chance to be me, and I want to be me.
Mm-hmm.
So he breaks free and goes over to the guys who are like, oh man, we think you're great.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, wow, cool. And then he gets to be himself. Phenomenal story that a lot of people can relate to,
Mm-hmm.
especially at a young age. And I think it's important because you've got those young coming of age lessons in there that kids experience. That's, again, kind of like one of those things with the PSAs of old that were endearing to some of those that now you're kind of like, man, these really suck watching. But at the same point in time, you still love them because there were a lot of important lessons in those. And we did get that from them. I know there are kids out there who may not have had the best parents, that some of the ways they learned this kind of stuff was strictly through the cartoons, G.I. Joe and in He-Man, those lessons taught through TV, because there were quite a few kids growing up that were just sat in front of a TV and said, here, watch this while I go. It was the 80s. Coke was everywhere. So,
Well, the thing I appreciate about the way they did Duncan on that show is Duncan initially was the guy that had a lot of the answers on Filmation, and even 2000X, he was the one filling in the blanks for Adam to let him know about some of the stuff they were going up against half the time.
yeah.
And I loved how on the new show you have him where he really doesn't have the self-esteem. And you're getting, like, through that series, you're watching this character grow from this, kind of mousy geek guy who's good with tech to, like, I love that one line on the show, especially where Trapjaw says to him, I was the man at arms for the Eternos Palace, and then he's like, yeah, well, I'm the man at arms for Castle Grayskull, and he's like, I resign, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that was such a great moment, because I was like, he owned it finally. He's become his own man, and he's able to rely on himself and not have somebody who's a bully to him pushing him around and telling him what he can do and what he can't do and all that. And that was a great lesson for kids to see. Like, you might have your own talents, make those work. And don't be afraid to show off who you are and let you be you. And like Adam's a good one to show about I know it's about the sharing the power, but about, like the trust in others and, like acceptance of others too in that show. The way he creates that little family of the masters on there and everything, I thought was really cool the way they pulled it off on there.
Yep. And, even going back to like the outfits and the unfamiliar designs yet familiar,
Mm-hmm.
they pulled quite a bit of that, I think, with these character designs, also from Scott's talked about it, that behind the scenes with Mike Young Productions, one of the things that they found out was kids didn't resonate to half naked barbarians. And I could see why, because again, fantasy was kind of out of the realm of present day media at the time. You know, we all grew up, Frazetta art was around, like everybody had coffee table books with that art kind of hanging around there.
Or there was the black van down the street.
Right. The mural on the side.
Fire and ice on the side.
Right. Exactly.
Dealing.
Beastmaster, stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was this relevance of this sword, sorcery, barbarian, half-naked dudes. Thundar the Barbarian years before.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, we were kind of just, barbarians are half-naked. Coming into the 2000s, you got He-Man up there half-naked, and everybody else on the show is, like, fully dressed. He was, like, the only one that was half-naked because it's that iconic look. But, you know, it was kind of like, okay, so this new show, they're like, let's learn from that. Kids aren't going to resonate with necessarily a half-naked dude running around, and I get that. So let's kind of armor him up. And they did it in a way that it didn't look gaudy or awful. Like, because He-Man should not be wearing a suit of armor. Battle armor He-Man, it's okay, you know, to suit up a little bit. But He-Man, the core character, should not be wearing, like, heavily armored clothes. So they gave us a really good adaptation to that core character. And
if you look to like the last 10 years of the comic books that they've been doing, they'll often He-Man has pants, but he's still got the harness. There's some additional details added, but a lot of it's He-Man with pants. Gotta give him pants.
And I'm okay with that. Like, you know, when I saw the New Adventures of He-Man, the fact that He-Man was wearing, like, you know, full knee-high boots and pants was not the part that threw me off. So, you know, I didn't really notice that as much as I noticed he's got a ponytail and he lost like 50 pounds of muscle. Skeletor grew eyeballs.
He talks like the Joker.
Right? Talks like, acts like, and is the Joker. You know, like, it totally pulled me out of what I was used to for He-Man. And that's okay in a way to do, but they just poorly executed. I think we had a much better execution with the current newest version of He-Man. And I hope... Go ahead.
Having said that, New Adventures, it was definitely not the success of the original line, but it did last like a good 3.5 years.
I was going to say, it gave us that much more He-Man in the 90s that, you know, helped keep it around a little bit longer, even if we weren't, you know, necessarily all in on it. It did keep it relevant.
And the only familiar characters who didn't look like themselves, but you just had He-Man and Skeletor. Nobody else was brought back. Everybody else is new, other than a few cameos in the cartoon.
Right. Just cameos in the cartoon. Nothing else. Not even a figure cameo. Like, they didn't re-release the Tila that showed up or, you know, anything like that. Like, that didn't come to the figure form. Which, again, I still think was a very smart move. Very smart move. You didn't quite pass the torch to a new generation. You brought the old He-Man to the new generation. Which can happen in sci-fi and magic and fantasy. That can happen. I'm fine with that. But as long as it's not like a whole crazy 300 different multiverses that we can't pick one and stick with for a while. So, you know, I know we're going on about the 2-hour mark, which is the Toy Frenzy thing. I don't know. Closing thoughts, guys, since we kind of talked about, you know, where things could stay to keep He-Man relevant for younger generations. You guys feel like we kind of hit the mark here, or what do we have? Final thoughts?
I think Shawn is right that we need more video games because that's what kids do. I know that's what my son does. He's very much into video games. I think as far as a movie goes, there's 100 directions you could take that. I don't know what I want to see. I think what might be popular is if they did something like Lego Movie meets Guardians of the Galaxy meets Robot Chicken meets, it was a lighter, kind of funnier thing. I don't know if that's what I want to see, but I almost think maybe that would kind of relaunch He-Man, just to not necessarily the Barbie movie approach where it's like, literally people in toy costumes going around, but I don't know.
I think keeping it light, keep it fun will endear it to the kids. Because let's remember, at the end of the day, this is to sell toys. Toys, despite our popular belief that they are meant for us, are meant for kids.
I do think if it's just another like clone of all of those Transformers movies or all the G.I. Joe movies, I don't think it'll make much impact because we've seen those things so many times. I think they're getting old.
I don't want, if we get a He-Man live action movie, I don't want an origin story. I don't want to see He-Man finding the power sword. I don't want to see that story. I don't need that story from a movie. I want to see a not 1987 necessarily, but even back when the Mike Young production was coming around, this idea of, and we kind of even saw it with the new CGI He-Man, and it was definitely the story of Princess Power. I want to see the rebellion. The heroes are the underdogs. The villains are ruling over everything. And I want that to be the kind of movie we come into, where they've got to overcome the villains, like however it's happened. That's the kind of story I want. I do not want to see Adam finding the sorceress, getting the power sword. If you work it into a rebellion style story where he rounds up the masters and gives us like that masters of the universe kind of thing, that might be working. But that's something you would see more in a series. And, that's kind of what we got the CGI line. Movies need to be a little bit more self-contained because let's face it, we're never going to get an MCU Masters of the Universe style. That's just not going to happen. And that's okay. It doesn't need to happen. Not everything needs to be Marvel's MCU.
Right. Whatever they do, I think as long as the characters are likable, and there are real stakes. The story, you can do a million things, but there has to be stakes. You have to care about the outcome. You have to, there has to be enough there for you to be invested. Whatever the stylistic choices are.
Right. Shawn, what about you? What do you want to see for the future of Masters?
The video game. I'm gonna just say the video game. I think is it has to be somewhere in there because, all these other brands have something like that, and I know the PS2 game was out for 2000X. That was even brought up in the chat and stuff. And yes, there is the Atari one. I'm not playing the damn Atari one. I know what that looked like. We don't need that.
It doesn't quite work for us.
I want a legit, hey, let's put He-Man on Battle Cat. You go riding through Eternia. Go to the Vine Jungle. Go to the Mystic Mountains and build these environments and build the people that live there so that you can literally have, here's what it's like to be in these different areas of Eternia, and even part of it could be like uniting the planet against Skeletor or something. If you want that to be part of the storyline,
sure,
have it be almost like 2000X, where between Adam and He-Man, you have to go to these different areas. You're protecting those areas, but then you're also trying to unite them to, hey, King Randor's against these guys too. Can we rely on you for help if we need you, and all that kind of stuff? And
yeah, bring in those other elements, that world building that Mike Young did, where you had King Carnivus and things like that.
Yep.
I would love to see more of that.
Yeah,
And
and you can have all kinds of Easter eggs too from all the different eras, right?
exactly. I mean, that was part of why 2000X really resonated with me. Was I was like, I love that we're getting all of these different areas of Eternia, and what does that mean to the story? And the story actually made it a point of, okay, we're going to visit these areas because something's happening there, and this is why it's important to do that. And watching that, in my 20s, even, I was like, this is great. Like and it's like these are these long lasting serial things, like Skelly was talking about. So I
Yeah.
really appreciated that on a lot of levels. And the main thing, I mean, when we were kids and you played with masters, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of kids out there that love the villains, and that's their stuff and all that. But when I watch my kids playing these video games, or when I watch them seeing these movies with me, the main thing you want to do is what happened to me when I was a little kid. You want those kids to look at what's happening and literally make them feel like it really matters what they're watching. It really matters what's happening to these characters. And when they're playing these video games, make those kids feel like they are the heroes. Because
Yes.
when I was a kid, there was no, like, I remember being on the playground. I had my play power sword. There was no cooler moment than being able to yell, I have the power, and go fight shit. And you felt like you were invincible for 20 minutes or so, And it's like the video game would give kids that ability, because it's like, they're not out there running around playing like when we were kids. They want to do it that way. That's their
Right.
version of creativity nowadays. And yeah, I
Well,
mean, movie wise, if they pulled that off, I would go see it just because I'd be like, I gotta see this. It's like, this is what they
yeah.
finally did. What did they do?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
see which way they took it. I don't think I'm ever gonna see the version I would like to see. So that's why,
Nobody will.
like, I will just go. I'm going in with no reservations. What do you got? And is this gonna engage me or engage my kids? So.
I'll be impressed if they just make the movie because we've been hearing about this movie since before the classics era, right?
Mm-hmm. In a
So
movie year. Yeah.
yeah.
And in one way or another, stopped, started, canceled, put on hiatus, back. We got new director. We've got new He-Man. We've got this guy. We've got that guy, canceled. Like,
Mhm.
wait, what? We were all blazing 2 weeks ago when the news dropped, and now we're just throwing it out the window. Okay, whatever. Again,
Oh,
it's that risk-taking factor that Mattel is so afraid to do.
Yeah.
oh, I got a pitch. I've heard this before. I didn't come up with this, but Dolph Lundgren as King Randor. He should be in there as King Randor.
I'd love it. I'd love
Yeah.
it. Perfect nod to the old,
Mm-hmm.
good homage, and yet you still have the ability to bring something fresh to the role. And that's important because, like I said, out of all of this, you need to take a chance, you need to take a risk, you need to do something different, but you still have to honor what was there, And the main reason for that is due to, we all see what happens when you don't honor. Or, everybody cries about them ruining their childhood, even though, I don't know, my childhood ended way back then. I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm not a child anymore. I can accept that, hey, you know what? That was then, this is now, and that's okay. I still have the memories, so that's intact and it hasn't gone anywhere. Thank you.
Bobby's teasing you in the chat, by the way, Oz.
Oh yeah, no, I see that in there. He's saying, "Will this toy frenzy go for 6 hours?" But
Mhm.
I mean, if he can't keep people entertained for 6 hours or more, that's his problem. But
Oh, shots fired.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's really about it. We've pretty much said what we feel needs to happen to keep this going. They got to take risks, got to honor what's happened, and they got to hit a younger audience. Otherwise, we're just never ever, going to see anything more. So,
I did think of one thing too, though.
oh, okay.
And this is for the Transformers. The leg up that they had, and this I think is going to be something, if they can get the same name kind of recognition they had Steven Spielberg for those movies.
Right.
If you can grab somebody who has that kind of a name and put it onto Masters of the Universe, it's a shoo-in. It's going to happen then. There is no name connected to this movie so far that is remotely like, it's like the Nee brothers. Everybody's like, who the hell are they? And they're on IMDb trying to figure these guys out.
Yeah. What
It's
else
like,
have they done?
Exactly. And it's like, I remembered that when like the first Transformers movie, the preview from Steven Spielberg is like, no shit. That's how they're getting this done.
Hey, okay. Yeah, cool. You got somebody who had some balls to back it. All right.
And it's
Is
like,
there
well,
not
the guy
one
could do extraterrestrials. I mean, I saw that in '82. I know it worked.
right? Is there not one high-end director in Hollywood right now that was not a fan of Masters of the Universe? There's got to be at least one, right? Look at what Takai Waititi did with Thor, huh? You telling me that guy wasn't a He-Man fan?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I don't want him to touch it after Love and Thunder, though. Because if that's the
that one fell flat.
Since I saw that one, I'm like, okay, this is.
But I
like, oh no,
Ragnarok.
I loved Ragnarok was brilliant.
Ragnarok,
I loved
yeah.
Ragnarok.
That was a definite win they needed.
If He-Man was like Ragnarok or Ragnarok, I'd be so happy. I probably won't be, but I would love that.
We're we're going to build it up in our heads.
The Power Grayskull.
Cut into a Flash Gordon riff. I mean, what?
I just all I can hear now is Led Zeppelin when He-Man does the "I have the power." I'd be like, oh
yeah,
God, go into
let's
this
do it.
well.
Yep.
Oh jeez.
All right, guys. Well, definitely, tune in soon because we're going to have some more big announcements.